we have together with us from SAP, Michael Deller, that is Senior Director of SAP S4HANA Solution Portfolio, and the GTM, that I don't know what is the meaning of, and Bernd Hartmann, that is SAP S4HANA Commercialization Lead. And together with them, we will see how S4HANA on-premise is licensed, and how new customer can buy license, and how old customer can do a contract conversion. This presentation will be recorded, and starting from now, this is starting from now, there is the recording on. I will leave the talk to the two SAP guests, and I will do as an intermediary in case of any question. But feel free also if you want to do some question to them. So I don't know if Bernd or Bernd start. Okay.
Yeah. So thanks for this nice introduction. Thanks for the invitation. So I already mentioned Italy is my favorite vacation country. So I'm especially happy now to talk to you all. Yes, so I'm Bernd Hartmann, and I'm joined by my colleague, Michael Deller. So we will do the presentation jointly. We will have two handovers. We would like to invite you to ask your questions at any time. So you can either put it into the chat, and one of us will always watch the chat. Try to answer as much as possible. If we feel the answer is a little bit more lengthy, then we will talk about it. So I will stop my video. So now you have seen my face and have gotten to know me, just to ensure that we have enough bandwidth for the presentation. So here's the agenda, what I would like to, or what we would like to share with you today. So as Mauro already mentioned, we will start with the S4HANA on-premise licensing model. This is available in two flavors, the licensing model for existing customers and for new customers. I will talk about the core versus the extended scope. So what is covered by the user licenses? When do you need to purchase an additional LOB or industry license like receivables or warehouse management? And then Michael will take over and he will talk about the maintenance timelines and the very special topic, our compatibility packs. Sorry. And then Michael will continue. He will talk about the S4HANA product conversion and contract conversion. So these are two policies which allow you basically to convert your current ECC licenses into S4HANA licenses. So you will get a credit in case you convert them, and we have two flavors, and Michael will explain them in quite some detail. And then hopefully, if some time is left, we have prepared an example, one consistent example. So we will look at a small manufacturing company who currently run an ECC system. We will see their bill of materials, so what they currently own. And then we will discuss with you how their S/4HANA licenses will look like after product conversion, after contract conversion, and we will also look at the user-based licenses. So that's it. As said, we are really happy to answer your questions, and with that, I directly jump into the topic. Still need to get used how to move the slides. So first big block is the S/4HANA on-premise licensing model. And this is now the first content slide. So when you consider licensing S/4HANA on-premise, you need to think about 4 dimensions. So the first dimension is shown on the top left side. This is basically the user licenses. So we called it the direct user access to the digital core. So this is you are licensing users in order to access the core functionality. You are used to that. That's the same principle as we have it with ECC or ERP licensing. There is one major difference. We have largely simplified the number of use types. So the classic name user licenses, they have grown over time. So we had up to 20 different user types, and that got quite complicated, and nobody really liked that large variety. That's why we have simplified them to a set of 4 use types. We have the professional use, that's our largest user, then the functional use, and then the productivity plus a developer license. Then the next dimension, which you see on the bottom left side, is the LOB and industry solutions. So you should be able also, you should be familiar also with that concept. So this is a set of solutions specific for an LOB, finance or supply chain, or an industry to solve a particular business problem, and they can be purchased on top. We have listed here a few examples: cash management, production planning, and detailed scheduling. So then moving to the right-hand side, on the top you see the third dimension. This is digital access. There was already a webinar on digital access on November 30th, provided by our colleague Falco Grünke. That's why we don't plan to talk about digital access today. So because you already know that. And then last but not least, the last dimension is HANA. HANA comes in 2 dimensions, or in 2 flavors. We have the HANA runtime, which is priced on an uplift on the HANA SAP application value, so an uplift on the S/4HANA licenses you purchase, or as an alternative, you can purchase the HANA Full Use Edition, which has a gigabyte metric. In the following, we will be focusing on the left-hand side, so the direct user access to the digital core. We will provide you with quite some details on the use types, and we will talk about the LOB and industry solutions, and especially about the boundary between the user licenses and the LOB and industry solutions. So this is another representation of those 4 dimensions with some more details, and this is already the on-premise licensing model for existing ERP customers. So since very likely the majority of you have already an existing ERP system, we thought it might be appropriate to start with the licensing model for existing ERP customers. So let me walk you through this from bottom to top. In the bottom line, you once again see the HANA database, once again HANA runtime or HANA Full Use, so-called Enterprise Edition. Then the next dimension is the user licenses who are needed to access the core solution scope. And here we have done a trick to make the move to S/4HANA for existing customers as simple as possible. And the trick is as follows. You can still use your classic ERP named user licenses, your SAP professional user, your SAP project user, your SAP worker user, and so on and so forth. Also for the S/4HANA world, in case you want that, provided that you purchase the HANA license and provided that you purchase the S/4HANA Enterprise Management for ERP customers, which is a flat fee license for a few thousand euros. So, and if you do that, license the HANA database and license the S/4HANA Enterprise Management for ERP customers, then you are ready for your from a licensing perspective for your technical transition, and then you have and thereby you have the usage right to use the S/4HANA core in production. So then, as an optional component, we have the LOB and industry licenses. I mentioned them already. They are dedicated to solve very specific business problems in one LOB or one industry. Here, the key thing to remember is for legal and technical reasons, you are only eligible to run S/4HANA licenses or S/4HANA solutions on an S/4HANA stack. That means in case you have a classic license, for example, for variant configuration, then you need to convert this license to the corresponding S/4HANA license. And that is exactly the reason why we have introduced the conversion policies, the product conversion and the contract conversion, and why we are also presenting this chapter to you today. And then our fourth dimension is also shown here, the digital access. No details on that in our session today. I would like to mention one thing. As opposed to the past, there is no SAP named user required for S/4HANA LOB and industry solutions. That means in case you have a user who is solely working on cash management and, for example, on treasury management, where we have distinct LOB licenses, then and he does not need to access the digital core. So no usage of the enterprise management, then this user does not need to have a user license anymore. So that's a simplification and that's a relief which is especially relevant for industry solutions. So which can be very specific and which do access the digital core only indirectly. So that is the licensing model for existing ERP customers. In case you want to have a fast start, purchase the HANA license and the flat fee enterprise management for ERP customers. So then we have another licensing model, which is basically a simplification of the first license model. That's the on-premise licensing for net new customers. So a customer who starts from scratch with S/4HANA and has no ERP system purchased before. Obviously, such a customer does not have SAP named user licenses. And that's the reason why we have basically combined the three building blocks you have seen on the slide before for the core solution scope into the S/4HANA Enterprise Management, where we have introduced the new user concept, where we have now the 4 user licenses, the professional, productivity, and the functional use, which I already mentioned a minute ago. For you as an existing ERP customer, the move to the new user model is optional. So you can start and continue with the existing licensing model, but there is also a way for you to get to the licensing model for net new customers. That's the main reason why we are showing this today. And the way, or the contractual way how to do this, is the contract conversion. That's something which we will cover also today. So here are a few details on the 3 different user types. The productivity use is the smallest use type. So he is dedicated for self-service transactions like self-service requisitioning or timesheet, and it's also covered dedicated to shop floor workers in a manufacturing area or in a warehouse. So we have capabilities like goods movement, warehouse management, production execution, production control. So then the next larger use type is the functional use. Very important to mention, it includes all capabilities of the productivity use, plus some additional capabilities, especially in the area of sales and service, plus some advanced capabilities in manufacturing, asset management, project management, and R&D. That means research and development. And then the largest use type is the professional use. So that's basically the license which allows you to access all capabilities of the enterprise management. And when you compare professional use and functional use, the delta is basically finance. So in case you have a professional working in finance or procurement, so you have somebody working in the procurement department, then those capabilities are covered solely by the professional use. And in that case, the enterprise management or professional use is the right license for you. So this is another representation of basically the same. Here again you see that there are 3 different use types in the columns. So the productivity use, functional use, and professional use, and the different LOBs, and it's basically listing which LOB is covered by which use type. So coming to our next topic. Our next topic is the LOB and industry solution and the boundaries between the enterprise management and the LOB and industry solution. So the question is here, what is covered by the enterprise management? So what can I do with my user-based licenses? So either with the named user licenses or with the S/4HANA Enterprise Management. And when do I need an additional LOB and industry solution? And the answer is the boundary between those two is similar to what you are aware of the ERP license. So if some capability, let's say in the warehouse management, was part of the ERP core, so was accessible or was within the use rights of the named user licenses, then the same applies also for the S4 area. So in case a capability like basic warehouse management was part of ERP core, then the same is true also for the SAP S/4HANA Enterprise Management. So that means the the functional scope of the ERP core and the S/4HANA Enterprise Management is comparable. But of course, we have some extensions in the S/4HANA Enterprise Management, some new things which have not been available in the ERP world. To make this a little bit more concrete, I will show now 3 slides on a different level of granularity. So everything you see here on this slide is the scope of the S/4HANA Enterprise Management. It's organized or shown in 9 different LOBs. And what you can see here then in the boxes per LOB are so-called solution capabilities. And every solution capability which is shown here is part of the S/4HANA Enterprise Management. For those who want to know more than this one slide, we have a document which describes this. It's called the capability description for SAP S/4HANA Enterprise Management, and that shows all the capabilities with some details explaining them what is exactly part of those capabilities. And then the ultimate level of detail is our feature scope description. That's a document which is available on help.sap.com. We have included here the link. And here you can see also a description of all of our capabilities in quite some detail. And we have made clear, or we have organized the document in a way that you can see the scope of the S/4HANA Enterprise Management, so the scope which you can access with a user license in Chapter 2. So the Chapter 2 is called S/4HANA Enterprise Management. And then Chapter 3 and 4 is called LOB Products and Industry Solutions. And that's where you then need an extra license. So this is now a view beyond the enterprise management. So in the middle of this slide, you see once again the enterprise management in the dark gray area. So this is this middle bar in a more aggregated view. Then in the light gray area, you see the LOB and industry solutions. So those are the parts where you need to have an extra license. And let me give one example in the area of sourcing and procurement. Things like operational procurement, sourcing, contract management, supplier management, procurement analytics, and invoice management. This is part of the enterprise management, part of the core license. That means can be accessed by the users either with a SAP named user license or with an S/4HANA Enterprise Management license. And then in the light gray area, we have the central procurement, and that's an area where you need to purchase an extra license. And then in the white area, we have additional LOBs. We have listed additional LOB solutions that can be either our cloud LOB solutions like SuccessFactors or Concur, but it can be also our Commerce Cloud and some very dedicated standalone solution like like our manufacturing suite, where we have manufacturing excellence, manufacturing execution, and MII, manufacturing intelligence and integration. So, and that's already it. That was the S/4HANA licensing model. I have covered the 2 flavors for existing customers, for ERP, and for net new customers. We have discussed in quite some detail the enterprise management scope and the industry and LOB solutions. And I guess there is a hand. So is there a question?
I'm Mauro. If you have to finish, but after I have to
Yeah, so
a question. Okay.
Yeah, I'm about to hand over to Michael, so it's the ideal timing now to ask your question.
Okay. So, according to my understanding, stay on talking about this slide. What is the dark gray is the SAP of S/4HANA Enterprise Management is inside the S/4HANA license named user, I would say.
Yeah.
What is inside in the light gray SAP S/4HANA LOB solution is available in your SAP S/4HANA system starting from the first installation. But if you want to use it, you have to buy a specific license. I mean, if I want to use the LOB solution treasury management that is under finance, this is available in my S/4HANA system, but I have to buy a specific license in order to use it.
This is 100% correct and a very nice summary.
Okay. Cool. If I am a user of the treasury management, I have to pay the license for treasury management that probably is based on revenue.
Correct.
And I don't need a named user license for enterprise management if I am not using the rest of the core.
That is also correct. So okay. Next time you can do the presentation on yourself.
No, is just a recap for me in order to understand if I well understood, because for you this is there is a list of functionality, solution, and so on, but for us that we are customer, maybe it's not so clear that we do not need to perform an installation in order to use treasury management. The solution is inside the system. You can configure, you can start to use. And this is a big advantage in comparison to SCC, where you had to install an add-on in order to use some LOB solution.
Yeah. So
and,
yeah.
And again, just a recap in order to see what I understood. What is called the suite LOB solution, that is the white part, are other SAP product that you have to buy install, configure in a separate way from S/4HANA. Most of them are cloud solution. You have to install nothing, but are definitely separate software solution. And if the digital asset between the LOB solution and the enterprise management, nothing has to be paid because this LOB solution belonging to SAP ecosystem.
That is also correct.
Okay. More than a question, it was a recap in order to see if I well understood.
But you have really summarized all the important points, so that is a very, very nice summary. Thanks for that. And I guess that was also for the...
I followed your explanation, and also you did a good explanation of everything.
Cool. Si chiama, non ricordo come si chiama. Zueg, no? Zueg, no, non è.
Is there another question?
Night, c'è o la fragola o
no.
Okay, so in case there is no additional question, I suggest I hand over to Michael. I guess he will walk you for the next, let's say, 45 minutes through the topics of the compatibility packs and then also through the conversions. So he will talk about the product conversion, contract conversion. So here you see Michael, and he will start sharing.
Yeah, hi everyone. So I would actually like to start, Mauro, very nice summary with one or two more aspects building on what you explained. So I'm going to, where is it? Switch off my camera again and share my screen. Here we go. Can you see it?
Yes.
Yes.
We are back to the slide, which we internally call the radiator. For whichever reason, so that's the nickname, you know. The NetWeaver slides many years ago, they had the nickname the fridge because it looked actually like an open fridge. So this is our radiator slide. And yes, completely correct, Mauro, dear participants, with S4HANA, we are doing a couple of things very, very differently compared to what we did in ECC. And one of the things is we technically integrated many or most of the industry and LOB solutions into the S4HANA stack. In order to bring down your total cost of ownership, as you are probably aware and as you have probably experienced, when you had multiple add-ons, technical add-ons on your ECC system, especially multiple industry solutions, some of them were not compatible. You could not have them on a single instance. This is, of course, an absolute no-go going forward because we are seeing many, many customers actually going over different industries and needing functionality from different industries. And we are already seeing that this new architecture approach has its benefits. For example, we are hearing from customers who did upgrades of S4HANA on-premise on newer releases, for example, from 16.10 to 17.09 or 17.09 to 18.09. We are hearing that doing these upgrades is a lot less effort than doing an ECC, an enhancement pack, sorry, an EHP upgrade on ECC. There is one more thing I would like to mention that is different because it is related to commercialization, and that has to do with business functions. For ECC or for the business suite, there is an SAP note, a table or a file where you can look up business functions and if they are commercially relevant, meaning if you want to use this business function and activate it, if it needs an extra license. That is no longer the case in S4HANA. Unfortunately, this is no longer possible. Why is it no longer possible to do that? Because this technical integration, bringing the solutions into one stack, that was achieved by development by putting many of these business functions to always on. And therefore, the commercial function of the business functions or the commercial aspect of the business functions is no longer working across the whole system. So therefore, we have decided to use the concept that Bernd has explained. Going through the solution capabilities, you have seen the solution capabilities that are assigned to the core use types. And of course, the solutions that are in the light gray area, they also have solution capabilities which have a clearly assigned licensing. So you can clearly see if you have a certain solution capability, whether it's core or whether it's extended. Digital access, the principle that Mauro explained, if you have communication between light gray and dark gray, also applies to the communication between white and dark gray if you like. So if you have an SAP cloud solution that is communicating with your S/4HANA system, then this is also something where digital access does not apply, as I'm sure you heard last week. Just to complete the picture here. Okay, very interesting topics here on that slide. Let's have a quick look at maintenance and at use right topics. So just to be clear about these two words, about the terms, they are very different. So when we talk about maintenance, the question behind that is what type of support model is SAP offering or probably no longer offering? Whereas when we talk about a use right, and we come back to that on the compatibility packs topic, we really talk about is a customer allowed to use a functionality or not. So use rights are really black or white. Is the customer in compliance with his contract or not? And maintenance topics, as you are aware, in our on-premise licensing, customers have a perpetual use right. So the use right does not end. But it may, of course, happen that SAP does not offer support for a product anymore. And with that, I'm sure you all or most of you have seen the announcements which we made at the beginning of February this year. We announced that we extend for the business suite. And that is not only for ECC, basically it's for all business suite components. So that also applies to SCM, CRM, and the other, what we used to call new dimension products. But that only refers to the last 3 enhancement packs. So please be aware of that. In order to have mainstream maintenance for ECC until the end of 2027, you must be at least on enhancement pack 6 with your system, okay? That is nothing new. Basically, this information, or at least the information that EHP5 ends earlier, i.e. 2025, that has always been on the product availability metrics. You can see the link in the lower right-hand corner. The product availability metrics is the central place to go if you are looking for information about maintenance of SAP products. Maybe one more word about terminology in the ECC world, in the business suite world. We are talking about mainstream maintenance. In the S/4HANA world, we don't talk about mainstream maintenance anymore. We just say an S/4HANA on-premise release is under maintenance or it isn't. And I'm sure you've also seen the respective slides about that. S/4HANA on-premise releases are under maintenance for 5 years, with new features only being shipped, of course, with the main release in usually September or October of a year, then with the feature pack stack 1, which usually comes out in February. Then we have the FPS2, which is usually coming out beginning of May. And after that, you will only get support packs for that particular S/4HANA release. We don't do downports as we did them in the past. So if with the next big release, with the next main release, there is some interesting functionality in there, we are kindly asking you to upgrade to that release. And as I said, thanks to the new architecture, that is going to be a lot less effort than it used to be in the past. Let me continue with the orange bar at the bottom. We are getting feedback from our customers that that far away, especially customers, many of them with the transition planning to S/4HANA goes beyond 2025. Let me do an example. We have a customer with probably 1 or 2 or 3 ERP instances and probably also an APO installation. And of course, that customer has to sequence his move to S/4HANA into his project plan. And especially with regards to APO, we are getting feedback that for many of our customers, they will not do the APO conversion to S/4HANA at the very start, but they will probably do other things first, like cleaning up your master data, which, by the way, is a very good idea. You know that the business partner is a mandatory element when you convert your system to S/4HANA, and it's definitely recommended to clean up your business partner master data, your customer data, your vendor data, etc., still in the old system, and then implement the business partner and then go to S4. So therefore we said, okay, what do we do with such a customer? We have to enable him to do his conversion project and probably use the software, his planning software, APO, in parallel, both the new version, the S/4HANA version, as well as the old version, because he's probably going to move over his planners country by country or business unit by business unit or whatever. So there's going to be a certain time with many customers when there's going to be a parallel operation. And what we announced in February is that we don't put an end to that use right. So if you convert your APO license into S/4HANA licenses, you keep the use right to the classic version until you have finalized, until you have finished your conversion here, right? Okay, then we have a really interesting thing here, which is the compatibility packs. And this is actually a first time in SAP history what we are doing here. As the graphic shows you, we are giving an on-premise use right that is ending. It is not a perpetual use right. It is what we call a term license. The use rights to compatibility packs end at the end of 2025. And they do. There are enough customers asking us, are you going to extend this 2025 deadline? And the answer is no, we will not, because we don't need to. We probably need to make it a little clearer what the recommended go-to solutions are. And I'm going to show you in a minute where that information is. But we will for sure not extend the compatibility packs use rights in general beyond 2025, because for most of these parts, for most of these classic solutions, we already have a successor solution in place. But we are coming to the details now. So what is a compatibility pack? It is a timely restricted use right, as I said, and it is applying to specific classic solution functionalities. And there is a central node. The link to that node is here, where you find lots of useful information. We're going to see in a minute what type of information. And we are granting this use right at no extra cost, provided that the customer has licensed S/4HANA and the classic solution. Let me go back one step. So that means if you look into this note here, you will find a couple of documents. One of the documents is an overview presentation containing some of the slides that you are seeing here too, plus some more explanations, what it is, why we do it, etc., some more details. It also contains the compatibility pack matrix, and that is really the list, the white list of all functionalities that fall under this timely limited use right, that are compatibility packs. When you look at this compatibility matrix, you will see that it has 4 sections. Today you can safely ignore Section 2 and Section 3. They were mostly relevant to older releases up to 16.10, but as of today, I think you can safely ignore them. In part 1, in Section 1 of the compatibility matrix, you will find those that require an extra license, and in part 4, you will find those that are part of the core that used to be part of ERP package and that are now part of enterprise management, like HCM, like LEWM, like LETRA, things like that. Second thing that is important to know is compatibility packs are only required for things that are on the SAP S/4HANA installation, not for side-by-side. A very practically relevant example is HCM. We are having quite a number of customers who run HCM on a separate system, on a separate installation, and the rest on a second installation. Now, if you convert the anything else system to S/4HANA, then this box here turns blue. It becomes an S/4HANA system, but the HCM system is technically separate and therefore remains yellow, meaning commercially it's still in the ECC world, following all the rules that apply there. It's a different ballgame if you run a single instance with everything on it, HCM, logistics, and finance. Then if you convert your system to S4, you are allowed to use HCM and whatever is on the compatibility matrix on this S4 system, but only under the compatibility pack rules, meaning until the end of 2025. Having said that, you probably also saw that we announced that we will bring HCM as with corresponding to EHP 8. We are going to bring this back to the perpetual scope of S/4HANA Enterprise of S/4HANA. We are working at that. We are going to bring HCM back to S/4HANA on-premise in 2022. And like I said, we are currently working on the technical and commercial details. So I actually need to update this slide here. We aim to replace these classic solutions by the end of 2023. The use right ends 2025. And of course, you need some time to implement the new solution. And therefore, we aim to replace these solutions by the end of 2023 to give you some time to implement the new solutions. However, we do not guarantee that we will bring over everything to S/4HANA, and I think that makes sense. When you do such a generational change from one software generation to the other, like when we went from R2 to R3, from R3 to Business Suite, it's the only point in time when you can clean out the house and throw away things you do not need and simplify. And therefore, there may be functions where we are saying they don't have adoption. Basically nobody is using them. So it may be that we will not offer successor solutions to all of that. The compatibility matrix, which I mentioned a minute ago, it helps you to identify what is actually on this compatibility pack thing on the matrix and following these rules. Something that also helps you to identify what am I using that is in compatibility pack is actually the readiness check. The readiness check tool is analyzing the simplification items based on your usage. And the compatibility packs are a subset of the simplification items. Therefore, in the compatibility matrix, you will also find links to the respective simplification items for each compatibility pack item. what the compatibility matrix is not very good at, I said it before, it doesn't give much information about what is the recommended go-to solution. And therefore, we have included another document into the note 2269-324, and that is the way forward Excel. It is an Excel document that is giving you more information just about that forward-looking. Here is the compatibility pack item. Here we have an example, the engineering record. It has the item ID 441. And then the way forward Excel is giving you information about some general comments, what the alternatives are, and then links to information with more links to, let's say, resources with more information. For example, to the feature scope description or to the, where is it? To the roadmaps. Because, and that should usually be here, because the alternative roadmap info would be here. Because our roadmaps documentation is exactly the place where we are giving forward-looking information. So we didn't invent a new type of document. Instead, the information about the recommended go-to solution for compatibility packs is, for that, we are using document types that already exist, like the roadmaps. Okay. Any questions at this point in time?
So no questions in the chat.
Okay. If not, then let's continue with the product conversion and the contract conversion. As you've heard from Bernd in the beginning, we decided to put into place two slightly different licensing models for S/4HANA, one for net new customers, starting from scratch with a clean slate, our simplified licensing model with just 3 core use types instead of the many use types that you had in ECC. And that is fine for net new customers who come without a history. What we had to make sure is that installed base customers who have probably been using our software for many years, that there is for them also a relatively easy and non-disruptive way licensing-wise into S/4HANA, and that's why we created the second licensing option with the flat fee that upgrades your ERP package, and you're keeping your named users, but all you need to do is in the installed base licensing model, all you need to do is you need to bring your LOB and industry solutions to S/4HANA, because only S/4 solutions are allowed to run on an S/4 installation. You remember the light blue boxes, and that is exactly what the product conversion is doing. And we are also going to look at the contract conversion, which is the second and final step, bringing our customers into the clean new S/4HANA commercial world, and we are going to see how that works. So basically, on a very high level, let's assume you are here today. You're today running an ERP system, maybe on NEDB, maybe already on HANA. How do we, or technically speaking, when you're going from on-premise to on-premise, you have these 3 options. I think landscape transformation has been renamed, meanwhile, to something like selective. I keep forgetting it, but I think we also need to update this. But basically, you always have these 3 options: doing a system conversion, doing landscape transformation, or also doing a new implementation. By the way, also interesting for many customers to, like I said, clean out the house and to make sure that when you start in the S/4HANA world, you have a fresh system with only the things in it that you need. How do we make sure that the investments of the past, the investments into SAP licenses of the past are safeguarded through the product conversion policy and the contract conversion policy that we are going to look at? Of course, we also have a policy in place to safeguard your investments when you are moving things to the SAP cloud. That is called the cloud extension policy, which is something we are not looking at today, probably in January, when we will look at the cloud licensing. Product conversion. The right-hand side of this slide might look familiar to you. It's the installed base S/4HANA on-premise licensing model with a flat fee. And as Bernd explained, the industry and LOB solutions, they have to be converted from yellow to blue, from classic to S/4HANA. And that is exactly what the product conversion is doing on a kind of a one-to-one basis. So in, I would say, the majority of the cases, we have a one-to-one relation between the classic solution and the new solution. Not in all cases. There are some cases where we have multiple solutions here that can be credited when you buy the S/4HANA equivalent license. But what we are doing, at least this year, and I think, Bernd, has it been decided already for next year, the credit?
No, not yet, as far as.
Okay. But at least for this year, customers who do this product conversion get a 100% credit for the licensing amount that they paid for their classic solution. So when you buy the new S/4HANA industry or LOB solution and you bought its classic equivalent in the past, then you, at least in 2020, you get a 100% credit for that. I think that's the most important things here. Some more details. Yeah, okay, we've got some more, let's say, nitty-gritty details here. 100% credit 2020, 2021. We are going to announce that, I would assume, very soon or early next year. What else do we need to emphasize? Yes, these policies can, of course, be combined. We are seeing many of our customers going into hybrid landscapes, taking selected functionalities to the cloud first that were in on-premise so far. And of course, you can combine those policies, the cloud extension and the product or contract conversion policy. Named users remain in place. And that refers to the orange bar that I explained to you when I started presenting. So product conversion one-to-one. We have kind of a mapping Excel, if you like, with the classic license material number pointing to its equivalent on the S4 side. For example, EHS product safety pointing to S/4HANA product compliance. The contract conversion is, for our installed base customers, probably a very good second step. So installed base customers will go to the S/4HANA world through the model that we just explained, make their experiences with S/4HANA, get up and running, understand all the new things that are coming. A lot has changed, not only the architecture, we are changing the processes, we are bringing in cloud technology where it makes sense. We are bringing in new functionality. If you look at AATP, for example, many new algorithms there, lots of stuff, or the advanced variant configuration. But after a while, or let me put it differently, the not so nice thing about the installed base licensing model is that we are bringing you in this first step into kind of a mixed licensing situation, because you keep your classic named users And if you need more of them, you also buy more of them, of the classic named users, even though you're on S/4HANA. And that is not something that we intend to have for a longer time. Our goal is to bring over time all of our customers to the net new model, to the simplified model that Bernd has explained, with no more named user requirements for the engines, etc., etc. And that is what, in the case of an installed base customer, we achieve with the contract conversion. Because what we do here is two things. We are first of all looking at all the licenses, all the SAP licenses that you have, including shelfware. And for long-running customers, this can be an impressive list. That's step one. Step two, we are looking at the answer to the question, what is the S/4HANA list of licenses that you need? So that is kind of your target licensing list. And then we are kind of taking all that you're bringing to the table, including shelfware. We are calculating a credit, and then we are converting all your licenses, all your classic licenses, into S/4HANA licenses, into current licenses, so that you get rid of the old stuff, and so that you have the opportunity to bring in your shelfware and get credit for it, even if you're not using it anymore. Our colleagues from pricing tend to call it the milkshake concept, right? So kind of like here on the left-hand side, I'm putting in the yogurt, the milk, the ice cream, maybe some fruits. And then I'm turning on the blender, and what comes out on the right-hand side is the nice milkshake. That tastes a lot better. So that's for installed base customers, the second step. And quite often there is a number of years between step one and step two, and that is fine. Because what you also have to be aware of this step two, the contract conversion, is it can be quite some effort, and it can require quite some research, both on your end as well as on our end, because the licensing bill of materials of customers can be quite long. What should I emphasize here? You're only doing this once. This takes you completely into the new world, into a clean new world. We don't do a one-by-one mapping here like we did in the product conversion, but we are throwing it all into the blender. Yeah, I think that should be enough. Here we have another slide that summarizes product and contract conversion, what they do, what they are good for. And with that, I'm actually at the end of my slides, looking at Bernd.
Yes.
Anything in the chat?
Yeah. Chat is quiet.
Okay.
Maybe pause for a few seconds to see whether somebody wants to ask a question. Mauro?
For sure, this second part is more difficult than the previous one.
Yes.
In my understanding, your suggestion is to go through product conversion. Sorry, for a contract conversion. But customer, if they want, they can also perform a product conversion if they want to move to S4. But there will be a day in the future where SAP will ask to the customer that have performed only product conversion to do also a contract conversion.
Honestly, we are not planning to do this. We are not planning to put time pressure on our customers to do this contract conversion, because we are aware that it is quite an effort in many cases. So take your time, no pressure here.
Okay, good. Thank you for the explanation. Probably there are two, I don't know in English, two main points that the customer evaluate in order to choose which is the best way to follow. For sure, one of the points is if I perform a contract conversion instead of product conversion, or vice versa, I lose some of the rights that I had due to past negotiation I did with SAP. This is one of the question that a customer can do. And the other question to be evaluated, I think, is the value of the two solutions. I mean, I have to move. I am a customer. I have just to move to S4. I am good with the user I have. I am good with the product I have licensing till now. Licensed till now. What is the cheaper solution I have to follow to go to S4? So, in your opinion, there is a difference between the two solutions or not? And what are the difference?
Very good question. So I think this doing it in two steps. First, doing the product conversion way. The benefit of that is that it is not such a lot of effort, and it's not such a big step, because I don't need to look at all of my licenses, but I can go into the S/4HANA world with a relatively limited commercial effort and keep some of the things, as you explained, Mauro, like the users I'm familiar with and I know how to deal with them and who needs which type of users, etc. I'm keeping some of that. I'm not, throwing myself completely into the new world, which is what I'm doing with a contract conversion, right? With a contract conversion, I'm trading in all of my pasts. The advantage of the contract conversion is, of course, that I can also trade in shelfware, which is not possible in the product conversion.
Okay. And one thing's about the compatibility pack. If I perform a product conversion, if there is an add-on I am using that is still not available on S4, I can perform, I can get the right to use it through compatibility pack. But if in future this feature will be available on S4, for sure there will be a time where I have to convert this solution or buy this new solution.
Yes, that is correct. And the scenarios when you are using a compatibility pack and move it to the new solution, there are different scenarios. There are relatively easy scenarios where, let's say, the perpetual S/4HANA solution looks more or less just the same. HCM will be one of those cases. Like I said, we are bringing it back to perpetual scope, and technically speaking, this will be a non-event. You probably won't even have to set up a project for that. So that will be really easy. Then there will be functions that are in on-premise today and that are also in on-premise in S/4HANA perpetual scope, but that have changed technically Let's do the example of warehouse management. Today in ECC, you're using LEWM. The recommended go-to solution for basic warehouse management in S/4HANA on-premise is technically based on EWM. So going to this EWM-based basic warehousing requires a project, right? You cannot do this conversion just by running a program.
Yeah.
And that was one of the reasons why we decided to bring in stockroom management. I'm sure that has also been registered. Stockroom management, which is kind of a somewhat functionally reduced LEWM to make it for customers who don't need all the bells and whistles to relatively easy bring their LEWM into the S4 world. And then there will also be scenarios where we are taking functionalities to the cloud. And this, of course, gets especially interesting because in order to be allowed to run a cloud solution, you need a cloud contract, a cloud subscription. So there will be different scenarios, but as I said, we are investing currently a lot of time and effort into making it clearer for each of the compatibility packs. What is the future solution? What does it look like?
Okay. But this is not a question. I just missed to say one thing. With S4, there is a tool on SAP OSS that can show to you what are you using on the system, if I well remember. So it can be possible to measure everything until a deep level than we can what you can do today in SEC. So I mean, in my understanding, I'm not so sure, but I'm sure I have read somewhere. Today in ACC, if you are a professional user or a workers user, there is not a real measurement of what are you doing in the system. There is the measurement of which transaction are executed and so on. While in S4, this measurement is available. So the customer can check properly what is using and what is licensed for. This is my understanding.
I would agree. However, you mentioned something very important with regards to the tools that we are providing. We are actually providing 2 tools that are building on a system trace. So when the customer prepares for the S4HANA, for the conversion to S4HANA, it definitely makes a lot of sense to activate a system trace. I think it's ST03 or something. And with the output, of course, then running the system, the usage log can be written. And then it's, for one thing, the readiness check, which I already mentioned, which is making use of your system trace. The second tool that is doing that is a tool called BSR, Business Solution Recommendations, which is, let's say, looking more at things from a business process perspective. The readiness check is relatively technical, but a very, very good tool. And like I said, you're getting this information based on your system trace, based on the transactions that you're using, like which simplification items are concerned. That's extremely helpful.
Okay, so you are saying that if you provide this information to SAP, SAP is able to perform to you a proposal in terms of license according to your real needs.
That is, these tools are actually self-service tools. So you can actually download through respective nodes. You need to install a little something on your system, activate the trace, and I think, I'm not sure about the readiness check, whether it gives a licensing indication, right? That cannot be more than an indication, because the relationship between licenses and technical objects is sometimes a little tricky. There is another tool, which is the Transformation Navigator. That is a tool that is a bit better, I would say, with regards to the licensing aspect.
Okay. I say that because there are 30-part companies that are selling services in order to evaluate what are the license you are using and what are your real needs. And for sure they ask money to do this activity. And for us, it's important also to know if some measurement can be performed by ourselves without paying 30 parts.
Definitely.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Bernd, back to you.
Yeah, are there any additional questions? If not, I will continue. Oops. No,
there is only my hands, but I don't know how to turn off my hands.
No, I did something wrong. Let me.
Aha, looks better.
Can you see my screen?
Yep.
Good. So in the last part of the presentation, I will give you now an example. So Michael has discussed with you the principles of the product conversion and of the contract conversion. I have mentioned the user-based enterprise management licenses in the very beginning. And in order to make this a little bit more tangible, we have prepared a small example. So the example is we have a manufacturing company with customers in multiple countries, 8 billion revenue, 9,500 employees. So the majority of these employees work in production. They have a strong R&D unit, and they also have employees in finance. So, and this customer now wants to convert their classic ECC on any database system to S/4HANA. As Mauro, you already mentioned, they are also planning to move to a hybrid landscape where their main system still runs on-prem, but they plan also to move several of their subsidiaries to the cloud. So there is also a cloud part of this example. On the left-hand side, you see their current bill of materials. So I admit this is a little bit simplified in terms of number of items. On the other hand, we have picked all relevant cases so that you can see really basically everything what happens. So, and now we look at this customer after product conversion, after contract conversion, and we also look on the enterprise management licenses. So currently this customer has 4 different types, named user licenses, professional, project and worker user, and also the employee self-service user. They have the ERP Foundation Starter, and then they have 2 LOB solutions in the area of finance, the treasury and risk management, and the receivables management. In terms of indirect use, they are still on the old model. They have the sales and service order execution, which they might want to convert to digital access. And last but not least, they have a third-party database runtime. So this is what happens after product conversion. So after product conversion, the customer is still on the classic licensing model, still owning the named user licenses. So in the first dimension, the direct user access or the user licenses, not really much happens. The only thing which they need to do is licensing the S/4HANA Enterprise Management for ERP customers, which I mentioned in the very beginning. And that license exactly upgrades their existing named user licenses to S/4HANA. Second dimension, again, is the LOB and industry solution. The customer has two, the treasury and risk management and the receivables management, and the customer decides to convert the SAP treasury and risk management into the corresponding S/4HANA treasury and risk management according to a product conversion and gets a credit for that. Very important, once again, to repeat, in a product conversion, only conversions into corresponding solutions are possible. So you can convert a classic treasury and risk management into an S/4HANA treasury and risk management, and you can convert a classic receivables management into an S/4 receivables management. You cannot convert a treasury and risk management, for example, in a warehouse management. So that is one cornerstone of the product conversion. So therefore, a product conversion is dedicated to a customer who really likes or who is happy with his existing licenses and who wants to use basically the same scope in the S/4HANA world. Product conversions can also be done step by step. So in our case, as a first step, treasury and risk management is converted, and in the next step, in a subsequent step, then the receivables management. So this customer also converts the sales and service order execution into digital access. That's also our recommendation, but also optional. And then last but not least, he licenses the HANA Runtime Edition in the database area. So now let's look at this customer, what happens in a contract conversion. So in a contract conversion, the customer moves to the new clean S/4HANA contract. That means he needs to convert his named user licenses into the S/4HANA Enterprise Management licenses. So that means he replaces the 4 different user types plus the ERP Foundation Starter by the 3 Enterprise Management user licenses, the professional use, the functional use, and the productivity use. And that's clearly a simplification, but as we already have discussed, that is also some effort to find out which are really the right users and the right amount. So, and then in the next dimension, the LOB solutions, here we see now one of the advantages of the contract conversion. So as in the first example, the treasury and risk management once again is converted into treasury and risk management, but the receivables management now is converted into extended warehouse management because receivables management was shelfware at that customer, but the customer wants to increase his footprint in the logistics area and wants to automate his warehouses by the extended warehouse management. So, and that's really the big difference of a contract conversion. Here you can really flexibly reallocate your licenses, you can really take almost everything and convert it into almost everything. So that's what Michael calls the milkshake approach. Then the other two dimensions are pretty much the same. In the example, sales and service order will be converted into digital access, and also the customer purchases a HANA runtime. So now, as my last slide, I want to do a deep dive on the top part, on the user licenses. So I would like to compare now for this smart menu customer. I want to list a few roles, compare their classic named user license with the corresponding enterprise management license. And this is shown now on the last slide. So here you see on the left-hand side, you see the different roles. So the customer has a chief accountant, receivable accountants, and risk managers in finance. He has production worker and production scheduler. He has a few sales representatives. He has a designing engineer and a research and development project manager, and he has also a few users in an employee role. You see then the capabilities these users use and their classic named user license. And I would like to go now line by line through this table. So the chief accountant is a classic user in finance. In the classic world, licensed by a professional use, and pretty much the same happens also in the S/4HANA world. So this one is licensed by the professional enterprise management for professional use. Pretty much the same is true for the receivables accountant. But now we have a special case, that's the risk manager. He is only dealing with liquidity management and finance risk management. In the classic world, he still would need to be licensed with a professional user. Since we got rid of the named user requirements for LOB solutions, no S/4HANA enterprise management license is needed. So that's really one area where you also can save money. Then in the production area, the production worker is licensed with an SAP worker user, and that translates into the enterprise management for productivity use. So that is the smallest and cheapest license. A very interesting thing happens with the production scheduler. So that was in the classic world is or need to be licensed with the professional user, so the most expensive one. And here in the S/4HANA world, typically the enterprise management for functional use is sufficient, so the middle license. And this is also true for our sales representative here. They also need a professional user, and in the S4 world, the functional use is really sufficient. All that applies also to the designing engineer, also can be done with functional use. And the R&D project manager was typically used by an SAP project user. And here also the functional use fits. And last but not least, the employee who is licensed with an employee user translates into the enterprise management for productivity use. So as you can see, the user requirements in the S/4HANA world are a little bit different. And in some areas, they also provide an opportunity for you to get a more favorable user license model. And that now brings me to the end of our presentation and of our webinar today. So let me quickly summarize. You have seen the two licensing model with the 4 dimensions. Michael has discussed in detail about the compatibility packs. Then we have introduced the conversion policies, and we have underpinned the conversion policies now with the example. And with that, I guess we still can take one or two questions. So let's see whether we have a raise hand, Michael.
I can't see one.
Yeah.
Maybe I have a question about this slide. It is not clear to me the last part of this example. You see that if you are using the LOB R&D today, and you are using it with SAP professional tomorrow, you don't need anymore to have a specific license, but you still need to have S/4HANA functional use, because this functionality has been moved to the enterprise management.
So good question. So all the capabilities which are listed here are part of the enterprise management or of the ECC core. Okay. So in every case, in all of the capabilities, with two exceptions, and that's the risk manager, all the capabilities are part of the core. That means they are subject to a user license. And in case they are subject to a user license, then that's true on the left-hand side and on the right-hand side. So project structure management and engineering change management, for example, those are core capabilities which do not require an extra R&D license. Okay. So, so this slide is really only about the enterprise management and about the user licenses. It doesn't talk about the LOB licenses. And what I also would like just to repeat again, this is only relevant for contract conversion, where you move your named user licenses to the S/4HANA licenses. It's not relevant for the product conversion, and this step is really only optional, and you decide whether this makes sense for you.
Okay. I don't want to do an advertising, but as a customer, we did a contract conversion. We did it some months ago.
Good, very cool. It's good to see some real practical example.
Yes, at the end we evaluate to buy the AnaDB and so on, but it was better to go to contract conversion. We remove some shelfware from our contract, and we bought some named user that we need. At the end, we choose contract conversion as our solution for my company.
Cool. Any final question? If not, then I would like to say a big thank you for the nice introduction, for the nice summaries, for all your questions and your patience with us. And I wish you a nice evening.
Also, I would like to say thanks to you, Bernd and Michael, to your time, your good explanation of this cool topics that are very difficult to be managed by customers, because usually are topics that are covered every X years and not every days. And so for us has been very important to organize this webinar. We are happy. We learn a lot today and also a couple of weeks ago. And I think we are going to organize also the S/4HANA Cloud license webinar in order to close the circle.
Yeah.
Thank you again to you and to Michael and to everybody that have participated to this webinar. The recording will be also available in our website. Thank you to everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
everybody.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye bye.